You're online.
By the way, Rosie, I found the answer to the question. if you'd like
Yes.
it. So World War I ended on November 11th, 1918. On November 10th of 1919, King George V declared 2 minutes of silence on Buckingham grounds the next day, November 11th, 1919.
The guns went silent. The history
Mhm.
on 11 o'clock on the 11th day.
We were talking about the actual declaration of Armistice Day versus when the war stopped.
Oh, sure.
All right, we got Bill.
I believe Mr. Yep, he's supposed to be here by
Zoom.
Zoom. I'm really glad our staff can do that.
Missing Reese.
Pam.
Yes?
let's see, was that Bill? Who said that?
I said Pam.
Oh.
And I said yes.
I said we're missing, I'm sorry.
Renee.
Sorry, Pam.
Oh.
Oh,
No problem.
I was gonna say yes.
I guess my mind is missing.
What can I help you with?
You're trying to crawl into that rock with me, aren't you?
Yes,
Yes.
I probably got hit on the head with a rock.
Miss Race indicated to me that she was attending a dinner for her parents' anniversary today.
Oh,
So that's, yeah, okay.
well, wonderful.
All right, we're getting close.
Oops, I got two agendas. You want-
Oh, down here probably. I don't have one. I mean, I have one on the computer, but. He's counting the seconds.
Took my clock down.
I got the largest clock I could find.
My computer says 7.
Hey,
You know, see, Donna's laughing, but she doesn't know is the reason I did that was because somebody does more than 4 minutes sometimes.
after October, it won't matter. Call the regular meeting of the Cedar Springs City Council for September 9th to order. If you would all please rise with me and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming this evening. I would ask that anyone with cell phones on, please put them on silent. Moving on then to roll call. Ms. Atchison,
Here.
Ms. Conley,
Here.
Mr. Gross,
Here.
Mrs. Nixon,
Here.
Mrs. Powell,
Here.
Mr. Hall, here. Mrs. Race was not in attendance this evening.
Mr. Mayor, would you entertain a motion to excuse Ms. Race?
Will the council?
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to excuse Ms. Race from the meeting this evening. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to excuse Mrs. Race from tonight's meeting. That was me. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, sign no. Motion carries. Moving on, public comment. Council welcomes and encourages the public to speak during the public comment in the public hearing portion of the agenda. However, council's policy is to hear the public comment, not to act on the public comment at this time. Concerns brought before the council during the public comment portion of the agenda will be referred to the city manager for action. If, after communication with the city manager, no resolution is reached, the concern will be elevated to the mayor and then eventually to the city council for action. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time During the city council meeting, citizens will be allowed to address the council. Please state your name and address for the record if you would like.
Notice that I have my back to the clock. I can't help it.
I'll keep time for you.
Have to poke me. Well, two things about Red Flannel. I'm real excited. This is our 15th year. We started in 2006 to have the read to ride. And of course, Pam Conley and her husband are sponsoring this, and they have for some years now, and we're really excited. We have this reading log out on 6 different websites. Of course, the Red Flannel Festival of the City, Solon Township, the library, and CTA and Cedar Springs Public Schools. Anyway, so the kids read 6 hours. They get to have it documented, bring it in, and they get a ticket to ride a carnival ride. And the kids are excited about it. So we are too, and it's a way that we can celebrate Red Flannel. The other thing that has come up is that we have an awning from the historical library, this awning, this red and white. And when they were taking the building down, I said, we have to save that. And of course, I didn't have to like twist their arm. Of course, we want to save it. So we were allowed, I asked Kurt and Dwayne McIntyre if they had a place to store it, and they did not. So the city allowed us to put it in the amphitheater. I don't want everyone to know that. No, anyway, it is in the amphitheater. Anyway, so I get an email from Mr. Womack, and he says, do you think it's been long enough to hold it out there in the amphitheater? And I'm going like, yeah, I know we can't leave it there forever. So what are we going to do? And it just popped into my head. Like
Sure.
surprise.
Price of scrap has went up.
And it's like, it's Red Flannel Day coming up. Let's have sealed bids. Let's put it out. We'll let somebody that loves Cedar Springs and loves the old library or wants a piece of the history of Cedar Springs. And we'll see who bids the most, and we'll give the money to the library. Right.
Sure.
Great. Okay, because I have 4 minutes, I have to go on. Mr. Womack and I went to KDL before the library was built. We went to a special thing with all the library directors, and we saw the water thing that you can take your water bottle and go like that and get water. And we thought, we want that for the library. And the library wasn't built yet. It wasn't in yet, but guess what?
Yeah.
It didn't get put in. Probably because it was too expensive. I don't know. But it's always been in my heart that I want one to have. And guess what? The friends were going to fundraise for it. And I thought, I've got to find out how much it's going to cost, because you have to be specific. And so I asked Dale Larson, and fast forward, it's in our library right now, and it didn't cost anything. He came in and put it in, sent 2 of his employees. Surprise, they were there, and they put it in. It looks like it was there from day one. And real quick, we had 1,384,785 points that readers read through the summer. That means that their points, they could go into that Read Squared. And I didn't make that up. It's on a computer. And there were 11,039 raffle tickets to get 95 prizes that were donated by the community. And besides that, those that completed their missions and attended programs earned a bag filled with 9 coupons, thanks to 8 different Cedar Springs food and ice cream establishments. And the Griffins gave 2 free tickets to a game within their 21-22 regular season. That's amazing. And I just want everyone to know it. I'm very excited about it. And thank you all for supporting your local library.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark.
Before my 4 minutes, I'd like to give each of you some documentation that I'll be referencing here. Thank you.
And then me and for the grandkids.
Hi, my name is Tony Norcus. I live at 357 East Beach. And I'm here tonight to try to call attention to the debacle at the end of East Ash Street, which has been going on since July of 2015. This is a residentially zoned property at the east end of Ash. And it has been, in my opinion, used for commercial purposes by Dean's Excavating in conjunction with any job that they have close to the city. For 6 years, the residents on Ann, Ash, and Beach, this has meant every spring, summer, and fall, we are subjected to constant daily noise, dust, and mud from double-bottom trucks, large dump trucks, and bulldozers bringing in and moving tons of dirt. On September 22nd, which you see on what I gave you, 2017, after 2 seasons of this, I wrote an email to city manager / zoning administrator Womack expressing the concerns of myself and my neighbors that this was a residential property and it was being used commercially as part of the excavating company. His first response 3 days later was that he was unaware. If you go to page 2, you can see that. He was unaware of what was going on, even though it had been going on all summer. And he would send a DPW person to find out. To summarize his response, which you can read the second one 3 days later, is basically that the DPW reported that this was a residential development, according to the person doing the work, and that the city manager, zoning administrator would keep track of it, and that our rights as citizens would not be violated, and nor would their rights to develop. So it is September of 2021, 4 years later, after contacting city manager Womack, and after his assurances that this would be monitored, the commercial activity continues with no signs of any residential development in sight. For 6 years and 3 months, our residents in our residential neighborhood, we have been subjected to the noise, the traffic, the dust, the mud, the slamming of the dump truck tailgates, and the beeping of bulldozers and trucks backing up from morning to late afternoon. I asked the city council, how has this been allowed to go on for 6.5 years if it was supposed to be monitored by the city manager? Can anyone just tell the city that we're going to develop a residentially zoned piece of property and then use it for 6 or more years for business purposes? Are our zoning laws so weak and ineffective, or are they just not being enforced? Is there no time limit that a developer has to follow? Do they not have to submit a plan and a timeline for development to the Planning Commission? I contend that for 6+ years, Dean's Excavation has used this residentially zoned property at the east end of Ann Street for commercial purposes in conjunction with his business whenever there's a job close to the city. The retirement community on Pine Street, the soccer field at the academy, the charter school on Pine Street, the current work on 17 Mile out to Ritchie, the high school, whenever Our Lady of Consolation in Rockford, dirt was brought in from there. So I contend that if there is no residential development plans that have been submitted with timelines to the city and the Planning Commission in 6.5 years, then this is not residential activity, but it is what it obviously seems to be: commercial activity in conjunction with an excavating company in a residential neighborhood. I urge the city council to investigate this and act accordingly. Please go to the site. What you see from the road is just the beginning. It goes on for another 75 and 100 yards to the east. I have come to the city council in your oversight capacity because this issue has continued to be ignored by the city administration. The citizens living near this property want this commercial activity to stop. We ask for real action, not meaningless, empty assurances like we've already received. Thank you for listening to my concerns. I served 5 years on this council. I know it's a difficult job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norton.
I'm Bill Simmons, 311 East Beach Street. And if I was an Indian, I'd talk to the city manager and I'd say, white man speaks with forked tongue, because he says something but doesn't do anything. And you can't imagine living over there. They track the mud out, so much mud out. You have to take bulldozers and try to scrape it back. When it dries up, they go by and there's just a cloud of dust. If you wash a vehicle, 15 minutes later, it's just covered with dust. And I don't know why Dean can get away with so much stuff. Dean has got the city right in their pocket. And it's either one or two reasons. Either there's money pushed back under the table, or the city manager is inept and the city council is in la land walking through Wonderland. Because nobody pays attention to anybody on that side, and it's been going on for 6 years, he said. This is just ridiculous. You couldn't get away with it in any other town but Cedar Springs. And I'll tell you, the whole gang over there is sick of it. And I would like to have some action and have him shut down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Deb Norcus, and I live at 357 East Beach Street. And I am here too about the concern on the property east end of Ash Street. I feel it has become a gravel pit rather than a subdivision for residential homes. The equipment noise, banging of the tailgate, the nonstop dust, dirt along with the wear on our roads has been going on for a while now. We have new roads on Ash and Ann Street, and the weight of the continuous equipment and truck travel are not meant to be a constant in this residential area. Another concern of mine is whether or not this soil has been tested for contamination. It is located a couple blocks from one city well and within a half mile of another. Do we really know where this soil is coming from? Council members, I would like you to review our complaint and see if this is a zoning violation. I urge you to go see the site for yourself. And like Tony said, when you get to the site, that's just the beginning. You have to go into it. And he also took pictures and some of the hills of the dirt piles. You can see tiles. You can see cement pieces. You can see all kinds of things. And I know Dean said he's filling in that area for houses, but I just want you to look at it and just see what you think, because it's really starting to get annoying. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other individuals wishing to address the council at this time?
Steve Nielsen from 111 Ann Street. And most everything I think's been said already, but at the end of Ash Street, on the right-hand side where the heavy trucks go, it's all tore up. It's all cracked. Where the left hand going down there is not. When they come back light, they don't crack it up, but there's damage being done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other individuals wishing?
Sandy Simmons, 311 East Beach. I don't have a prepared speech. I'm just here to say we are tired of this. This has been going on way, way, way too long. I did have a council member tell me within the last year that that was not going to be residential. So I don't know why the dirt keeps coming, other than it has to be a dump station for him. It just has to be. Those trucks will start early in the morning. And sometimes they're there after 6, but when they start early in the morning, you can hear them, because when that dump truck goes up to dump it, it makes an awful sound. Very, very tired of it. Please look into it for us.
Thank you. Any other individuals wishing to address the council? Mrs. Powell.
You know you do get council comments.
Well, this is something special.
Okay.
I suppose. You got 4 minutes.
This comes from the newspaper that was Cedar Springs Clipper that
Nina and Grace ran, and Nina was a fabulous writer. Just a little something about red flannel and the huge importance it is to our community. The world, or at least a considerable part of it, waggeth this week along the Red Flannel Way. And Cedar Springs, with its Red Flannel Festival, finds itself in the center of national attention. And this was written in 1939. Those who weep over the passing of the olden days of customs of times of yesteryear need only to hear of Cedar Springs Red Flannel Day, Saturday, November 11th, to be heartily cheered. At that time, it was on Armistice Day, and it's been moved since. In a world torn by the horrors of war, we pause to remember that Saturday is Armistice Day, the end of a war. How wonderful that our land is free from the horror, that we can indulge in the frivolity of a Red Flannel Day and give thanks, that we can be cheery and pray that it may continue. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. If you folks would like, you may leave, or you can sit with the rest of the
You
meeting.
don't have to leave.
You
You're welcome
you
to
don't
stay.
have to, but
You certainly can.
yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. All right, moving on. Item 4, we have a public hearing. I would entertain a motion to open a public hearing for 425 transfer of 410017 Mile Road, Cedar Springs.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
All those, any discussion? All those in favor of opening the
Aye.
public meeting signify by saying aye.
I
Those opposed, no. Mr. Womack.
So this is a newly created piece of property, so you probably didn't see it on a map anywhere. Essentially what's happening is you have the property, which is a strip mall where the Subway restaurant is located. And they do want to put a marijuana business into that location. Unfortunately, there is a single family home that shares a common property borderline with that property. And so they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So this is kind of the how we're getting around that. They're creating this new piece of property, and they've already submitted and had approved a site plan for a retail store to be located on that border property. This has been an ongoing issue for, I think, about 12 months. I think this is the last piece that we need to get it finalized. And if the council approves of the 425 transfer under your consent agenda, we'll be able to get this one finally put away and done.
Thank you. Any councilors, any questions from the council?
I would just say that I think this was a very good solution to what was sort of a tricky situation regarding ordering piece of property.
Yeah. On the planning commission, we wrestled with this quite a bit, and this is a resolution we came to, and we're trying to identify what business they were going to put in this little strip. For those of you that aren't aware, it's the Subway sandwich mall that was acquired, and it was adjacent to a single family residence, so they could not do business in there. So they acquired a strip to the south of there, and this is what it is, and they're gonna put a business in there. We don't know yet. That'll come at a later date. Any questions?
One comment, as an employee of another entity, I was fully aware of what was going on and working with them also
Yeah.
in an attempt to make it possible to happen. I was probably more of a roadblock at times than need to be. This is exactly what it needs to happen in order for this to happen for them.
Correct. Appreciate your help on your end. You know, we want it to be right. We don't inherit any of these things. Any other questions or concerns before I close the public hearing?
I think the planning commission put some heavy lifting into this.
Constant.
So thank you for that.
At this time, I would Hearing no other further comments, I close the public hearing on the acquisition of 4100 17 Mile Road and the 425. Any other business? Moving on to adoption of the agenda as printed. Do we have any modifications or changes?
So this would be your second updated agenda and packet. I did make those modifications, I believe, 2 days ago. So I believe I've taken care of all the things I wanted to change. So I don't have any changes to what's presented to you tonight.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Support.
been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Any discussion?
I just have one question about the, I gotta make sure I'm in the right place here. For the wastewater treatment plant, there was one quote. Was that simply because that was the only place they could be purchased?
Yeah, so that's one of my ongoing issues with the wastewater treatment plants is I'd personally love to see 30 quotes. But I get the impression every single time I talk to both Mr. LaRose and Mr. Osborne that the majority of this stuff is very highly,
It's very proprietary.
authorized. There's only a few people that even do it. And that the occasion where we do have more than one who will do it, our company that Infrastructure Alternatives, they've had a long-standing working relationship with one of those groups. So I tend not to say, no, you have to get, 6 quotes because it's very difficult.
That was my assumption, but I just wanted on the record.
Appreciate it.
Hawk is a very reputable company. And it's very proprietary and they're very good. Any other questions?
Ms.
Yes.
Johnson has a.
I'm just noticing that 6F is on the agenda 3 different places.
What?
6F. In the consent, it's on action and it's in discussion. Looks like it's the same item. Might be mistaken. but-
That's the one that was supposed to be.
I was gonna say, it's not on mine.
No,
Mm,
mine either.
Well, I have
I have it.
I have a 6F on the consent.
Well, and then under action 7B looks very similar.
I know, that's, you have one of the old drafts.
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say, the one that's on the computer right now doesn't.
Oh,
Okay, we're looking at
Okay.
the ones that were printed here. Is the ones that was printed here, the ones with the error in or?
I believe so. Cause I printed this off this morning and it does
There's
not
this-
show a 7.
There's a 6F in the consent agenda. But then under action item, there's an A and a B.
right. So the F to me
Motion
looks
or
very
Halloween.
similar to the B, 7B.
40.
One,
Even on the computer.
yeah.
Sorry for the
Oh.
confusion there, guys.
No, that's my mistake. So what originally happened was it was in your consent agenda.
Well,
And then I made a slight modification to it, so I put it to discussion. But then afterwards, I thought, well, the council might determine that this is a minor change. And so I moved it to action, so you can still discuss it, but you can also pass it as presented if you want, if the council agrees that it's a minor change. So it looks like I intended to erase 2 of those and didn't for some reason.
okay.
So where do you want it?
Action, so let's then eliminate where it's at under consent and also under discussion.
So that would be F under consent.
So that'd be
Correct.
6F and then also
8D.
8D.
So I will make a motion to strike item F from the consent agenda and item B,
No,
D.
D
from 8, discussion.
from discussion. Item D from discussion.
Okay,
May I ask, is that what you were referring to?
I believe so, yeah.
You want it off from, okay, that's fine,
wanted in action.
He wants it there.
that's fine.
Any other
So,
changes we need?
Lisa seconded. You just need to vote.
We are set. Everybody's okay. Okay, roll
You have
call.
to vote to amend it.
Roll
I made the motion, Lisa seconded.
As amended.
Agenda as amended, yeah.
Correct. Mrs. Atchison,
Yes.
Mrs. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Hall, motion carries. To approve the consent agenda as amended. Moving on to
Mr. Hall, were we adopting the agenda or approving the?
the consent
Adoption of the agenda.
adoption. Yeah,
As
now we're moving on to the
amended.
consent.
I amended the adoption because we'd
Yes.
already voted.
Yeah, that's what we were voting on.
Now, everyone's looked over the consent agenda with any topics in there you wish to discuss or remove or add.
I would like to discuss, just a short discussion about G. uh,
G.
On consent agenda, the G, number G.
Motion to approve the scope of services proposed by Fishbeck Engineering regarding design phase of Red Hawk Drive water main for a cost not to exceed.
It's engineering to run the loop to tie in the water main from 17 Mile Road south down the driveway into the water main in behind.
Okay.
the high school.
It's part of that plan that we had for where to put the new water tower.
Right, it was just new to me and I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
engineering. That's the engineering.
I sent a couple emails about this. It's been a while though.
Yeah,
But essentially what happens is is it 12 inches, 16 inches coming out of the water field
The pipe.
pipe that comes?
The water main coming out, there's a 12, and then behind the high school is a 12.
And so
We're
at,
looping them.
at the driveway where the high school is, I think
Yes.
it goes into what, a 4-inch or a 6?
Yes, it ties into a 4-inch on 17 Mile Road and proceeds zigzags into Marie and Ann Street into there and eventually makes it to a 10. If the main fails coming out of the well field that comes up Beach Street,
That whole chunk of town is no
we
water.
have to force water through a 4-inch to maintain in the whole community.
Okay.
And that's. not
That's sort of a
doable.
problem.
So it's a little kittywampus, but by running this down Red Hawk Drive, we're meeting that 12-inch that goes.
Yeah, it's been in the long range
yeah.
plan.
Northland, and so now you can maintain 12 inches of pressure throughout the community.
And now superintendent has now approved us working on it.
So he had previously indicated that they were on board, and so he reiterated that yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
Email I read.
And then this also connects into the eventual like second water tower when we have to do it.
That's our
right?
anticipation,
Yeah,
but we don't know that for a
right, but
fact.
we can't do a water tower until we make this
We'd have to
fair,
have
right?
a hydrogeo flow study done, and that would dictate where the tower, the best location the tower would be.
But it's not even an option to upgrade to another tower with, if we don't do this first.
Correct,
Probably, yeah.
correct.
That was my understanding of the steps of it.
We have,
Although The real next step is to get another water well.
Right.
installed.
And a lift station?
and run a pipe up Pine Street to White Creek. That'll be our next big one.
There's all sorts of things we'd like to do with the.
Oh,
water
yeah.
system.
Yeah.
That won't be on me,
Well, I'm
but,
just wondering about this one, that's all.
any other questions before we ask for a motion? You're all set with that,
I'm
Ms.
good,
Powell?
I'm good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay,
Water's
approval
complicated.
of the consent agenda. Did we have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that.
Any further discussion? A roll call vote. Mrs. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mrs. Conley,
Yes.
Ms. Atchison.
Yes.
All votes yes, the motion carries. Moving on then to action item A. Motion to approve the Halloween Spooktacular Sunday, October 13th from 5 PM to 7 PM. For estimated cost of $460 for county sheriff.
I would make a motion to approve the Halloween Spooktacular Sunday, October 31st from 5 PM to 7 PM for an estimated cost of $460.
Second.
If I may. So we have received some requests that the city not hold the Halloween Spooktacular on the 31st. It is a Sunday. My personal philosophy is you always hold on the 31st, but I can understand why people might want to hold it some other day. Really, we could be talking about two separate issues here. But for right now, what we're talking about is having deputies on Main Street to help crossing over Main Street while the businesses do their candy pass out. So Mr. Hall indicated that we might be better off tabling this to next month to give me more time to speak with the businesses and the Chamber of Commerce and see when they were planning on doing their thing. And then have this coincide with that activity. The flip side of it, of course, is, you know, if kids want to go around on Sunday and collect candy, that's fine. They can do it in the neighborhoods. But they would not be doing it with the assistance of deputies on Main Street.
So my thought is you get Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening trick or treating and the kids are amped up on sugar and send them to school Monday.
Well,
You know, and.
There is precedent. I talked to the manager about this, because my 25-year-old daughter was like 8, and the city moved the whole trick or treating that was on a Sunday to a Saturday, the Saturday before. And there's some advantages. I
both
mean,
ways.
you know, having it on Saturday in that you don't have to worry about people getting up to go to school. You don't, I mean, it's just Saturday. So I'm not advocating one way or the other. I don't really have a position, but I can understand why some people might want it that way.
So we do have another meeting between now and then, October, I don't know. Johnson, you know the next meeting.
We could approve the funds, but have the date.
That's why I was wondering if we could amend the motion, eliminating the date. The hours of the event could be included. And to a date to be determined.
Say for 2 hours.
Yeah, that would be fine.
And then this part is taken care of. You don't have to worry about it any longer and having to come back with it.
Done.
Well, it depends on whether the council would want us to put it on a Saturday, because we could put it on the 30th. We could also put it on the Friday while kids are in school, so they can wear their stuff during the day in school, and then,
There's a whole lot open-ended there.
yeah, and
I would like to amend my motion to approve the Halloween Spooktacular from 5 PM to 7 PM for an estimated cost of $460. Date to be determined pending input from Main Street businesses.
Second?
That's.
Oh, no, you were
that's
amending.
Second, yeah.
You approve
I'd
that,
say, so
okay.
whoever seconded has to second the amendment.
Okay, everybody, any other further discussion there? Hearing none. Mrs. Ashton,
Yes.
Mrs. Conley,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mrs. Nixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Hall votes yes, motion carries. Item B, Mr. Womack.
yes, so I apologize for the mix-up before. So this is the ordinance that we've talked about now a couple times regarding the marijuana caretaker ordinance. So the very confusing state of marijuana in the state of Michigan. So there is a 2008 law, which was the first one, which allowed for these people called caretakers to essentially grow marijuana on behalf of medical marijuana patients. Well, we don't have anything that really addresses this issue, which is what this ordinance is proposing to do. Essentially, what we're saying is, again, this is all very complicated based on what the Michigan Supreme Court recently did. But we're basically saying that you can grow your medical marijuana under these circumstances. Just trying to bring up the changes that I recently made so I can kind of detail it for you.
What page might that be on?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. So it starts on 55. So the primary change I made, you'll see on page 56 highlighted in yellow. The medical marijuana caregiver operation must only be an accessory use of the property and must not be the principal use of the property. And this is regarding a use of that property in the I-1 industrial district.
Mhm.
So we currently have a situation where there's an industrial property where essentially this is happening. What we don't want though is for these properties to, put a garage up or a shed up and say, okay, now I'll rent you that use of a shed. I think we have to force them to put a little skin in the game. If you're gonna use this for a profit, you must use one of your principal buildings for that purpose. Now, of course, if you'll remember the last time we talked about it, most communities have only allowed this type of operation in single-family residential. And we do also allow that in this ordinance, but this at least provides the council the option of allowing it to occur in industrial sections of the city, which is probably the most ideal location for this type of activity. Then you'll see again on page 57, I just added in the word accessory building. That's for the growing it in a single family residential district. Anyway, so it is a substantive change which I've proposed here, but it is also minor in nature. So the council has now seen this multiple times. So I ask you to put into action so you can pass it if you'd like, as presented, or we can table it so that you and the public have the option of reviewing it one more time prior to passage.
What's the will of the council?
After trying to figure out which ordinance out of the three I was supposed to study, I did try to study them all, and I was more and more confused every time I did it. But the one part on page 56 says the medical marijuana caregiver operation must only be an accessory use of the property and must not be the principal use of the property. So does that, I think I also read that it has to be in the home.
Correct.
So does that mean we're forcing folks to grow the marijuana in the home that they live in?
So it's essentially doing the same thing to the industrial properties that we're doing to the residential properties.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't want is for somebody to put up a large garage and then grow all their marijuana in the garage. If you're going to grow it for your medical use, we want you to be doing it in your home. Same thing with the industrial properties. We don't want people to make an end round around our zoning ordinances to grow marijuana in a principal building of an industrial building as its primary use. We have a law that would allow you to do that through the recreational marijuana law. So essentially what we're saying is, okay, you can grow, or we can allow you to have a medical caregiver operation at your industrial building,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not going to allow abandoned or empty industrial buildings to be used for that purpose by itself.
Mm-hmm. So a caregiver for themselves are not selling it theoretically, but a caregiver who is selling to folks for care is going to be growing multiple plants in their home where there might be children or anything. So there's nothing we can do to prevent someone from growing 72 plants in their home.
Yeah, so again, this is the state of the law in Michigan. It's not anything that we're doing wrong.
Uh-huh.
So under the 2018 ordinance or statute, anybody can grow up to 12 marijuana plants for recreational use. There's nothing we can do about that.
Right.
What this ordinance is saying, and not many people are going to use this,
Mm-hmm.
is that if you are a qualified caregiver, registered with the state,
Mm-hmm.
and providing marijuana for up to, I believe it's 5 patients who are also registered with the state,
Mm-hmm.
then you can grow your marijuana either in your house or as an accessory use to any of the industrial properties in the city.
Okay.
I suspect most people, if they're just going to be, marijuana users, they'll probably just grow 12 of their own plants under the recreational law.
It would just be kind of pitiful to think that somebody's family is in a house, all those plants and,
Well, they don't have to grow 12.
well, I
They
mean,
just
we're
can.
talking about more than 12 for a caregiver. They grow more than 12,
They,
Caregivers can, yes.
but they don't have to.
but they could.
I've seen the whole basement full of plants.
Mhm.
Right, but I'm saying,
Illegal.
we're not making them do it.
Right,
We aren't saying,
Fair option.
but we can't prevent a home full of pot plants with a family or kids or.
So this is the shoe that's gonna drop.
Mhm,
So under the Michigan Supreme Court decision that happened in, I think, November of 2020,
mhm.
it basically said you cannot preclude this type of use, but you can limit this type of use. So if we don't pass this law, it doesn't matter, they can still do it.
Okay.
If we pass this law, at least we can impose some of these minor things like odor control,
Mhm.
which is the main reason I think we're even looking at it. The only controversial part of this should be whether we want to allow this cottage industry of allowing caregiver operations to exist at industrial buildings. That's really the only part that should be controversial.
Okay, I guess we have to do what we have to do.
we also can't tell people that they can't make their own wine. I mean, I'm just saying, like, because they have kids in their house. I mean, I'm not, and you're talking to the lady with 150 tomato plants. So, I mean, it's,
We can't prevent people from making salsa.
right.
Any other discussion, or what's the will of the council?
So is the council then okay with allowing a caregiver operation as an accessory use at industrial properties? That's what really I'm asking.
I have a question regarding that. So would like a self-storage be considered a industrial property?
It's funny you should ask that question, because this is one of the main reasons this is on your agenda.
Well, I know that's how we came here. But is that industrial is my first question. And then how would you define its accessory use versus its primary use? Because its primary use is storage. But if it's full of a marijuana grow operation, where's that line?
I got all sorts of answers for you.
Oh, good, I'm glad.
So in the city of Cedar Springs, mini storage is allowed in various zoning districts.
Mhm.
It's allowed in the B3 district. But we wouldn't allow the caregiver operations to exist in the B3 zoning district,
Correct.
only if the mini storage was in an industrial zoning district. We don't have a lot of industrial land in the city.
Mhm.
And the few places that are, don't have mini storages on them. So that being said, really what we'd fall back onto is in this ordinance, it very specifically states you can only have one caregiving operation on any single property.
Mhm.
Now, there is an undisclosed location directly across the street from a city property in Solon Township, which is a mini storage location that rumor has it has multiple grow operations occurring within it.
Has some very high electric.
Yes, I don't have electric use, so
They have sun lamps.
we were quite aware of that when we were writing the ordinance.
Mhm.
So we fell back on you can only have one caregiver operation per property.
Okay.
And that would eliminate loading a storage facility full of. individual
Sometimes
items.
it's putting thread through a needle. And when the Supreme Court decision came out and said you cannot preclude this type of use,
Mhm.
you can only limit it. We thought of different ways we could limit it, but not preclude it.
Okay.
So if that industrial property borders a residential, that's automatically off the table.
So not under this ordinance.
No.
Really?
Now, there's not too many properties that border industrial properties. But there's another reason why we wanted it in the principal building and not an accessory building. We largely control the setback requirements of principal buildings in all districts. And they're generally larger, and there's a green belt requirement if you have an industrial property bordered by a residential use.
Mhm.
So if we allowed it into a shed, you could have it as little as 10 feet, well, really 3 feet off the property line.
Mhm.
Whereas if it's in a principal building, I forget what the setback is, like 40 or 50 feet
Yeah, 40 feet plus a green belt.
plus a green belt.
So it's a lot complicated.
Don't you guys worry. I've got the draft for the next marijuana ordinance on my desk today.
Oh, boy.
I love talking about this.
One of these days, we'll all be done and we'll all look back at this with fond memories.
I just do not understand how this geeky girl who has never in her life used marijuana has spent so much of my life thinking about and talking about marijuana. It's just
After
amazing.
October, I won't.
So,
So are we looking for an action?
Yeah, so we've reviewed this now, I think 3 or 4 times. It's ripe and ready. The question is whether the council believes that this little change I made here, even though it's substantive, is minor in nature. If you believe it's minor in nature, you can pass the ordinance. If you think it's substantive in nature and a major discussion and talking point, you can table it to the next meeting.
What is the will of the council?
I would like to make a motion to approve this ordinance as presented today.
second,
Okay, it's been moved in second to approve of ordinance chapter 40, article 1, section 40-5. Any further discussion? Hearing none, have a roll,
okay. I thought you were, are you good?
a roll call vote. Miss Atchison,
Yes.
Mrs. Conley,
Yes.
Ms. Gross,
Yes.
Ms. Nixon,
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
Yes,
That's all votes yes, the motion carries. That moves us, any other business to be brought before this board?
Not at this time.
Into discussion items, chickens in the city limits.
So 2 of you chickened out at the last meeting and didn't show up to vote. So we decided to bring this back for a second straw poll, I believe. I thought it was 3-2 in favor. The clerk's notes indicated as 3-2 against. So I believe it was Ms. Nixon and Mr. Hall who missed the last meeting. So at this point, we're really just looking for a straw poll to decide whether we want to get into the weeds and really kind of hone down what this ordinance would say. The primary of which are going to be, how big of a piece of property do you need to have in the city to be allowed to have chickens? How many chickens would we allow you to have? And other things like that. So I guess, Mr. Hall, do you want to take a straw poll on continuing? Do we want to discuss it further? I don't know how you'd like to proceed.
How did we come back to chickens?
People came.
Oh,
and
people came and asked.
We had some residents on the end of 7th Street. They live on a larger lot. And they would like.
They would like to have chickens.
chickens.
Ms. Nixon, I at the last meeting said that we have done this once.
We have.
And it was a 4-3 against, if I recall.
Mm.
It didn't pass.
I was pro chicken.
I was pro chicken also. And
Well,
here we are again. So
So,
Sure, let's chicken out. Yeah.
Mrs. Powell, are you for or against chickens?
I love chickens, but I don't want them in the city.
Okay, Mrs. Conley, are you for or
I
against?
am for as long as they're limited and no roosters and
Mr. Gross,
We're not rural. I don't believe they have a place in the city.
you,
Regardless of the number, you're still gonna know they're there.
Mrs. Nixon,
Sure, let's have chickens.
oh, chicken. Mrs. Powell,
She already said.
she already said she's a no.
You're looking for Mrs.
oh,
Atkinson.
Miss Atchison,
No, not in the city, please.
well, we're at a dead heat. 3 no's, 3 yeses, so I guess
Oh, in
Ms.
the
Ray
event of a
said no
tie, it's
last
a
night.
no.
it's a
I
no.
said yes.
Until next month.
I was gonna say, Miss Ray said yes.
Okay,
She's not at the meeting.
right. So
She's not here, so
So we gotta do it again.
we'll either move on to next month
Mr. Hall,
or
what was your vote? I'm sorry.
no.
Yes, it was no?
We have 3 no's.
She's gonna chicken out.
I'm
No,
chicken-
you have
Four
you have
no's.
4
Four
no's then.
4 no's and 2 yeses.
If you're a no, when you said 3 and 3, I assumed you were a yes.
No, I have Miss Atchison as a no, Conley, yes, Gross, no. Oh, yeah,
And
you're
Rose
right.
is a
And
no.
Rose is also a no.
Oh, we're right, 4. We're dead on arrival. No chickens.
No chickens.
I cleaned out a lot of chicken coops and
I've just cleaned out chicken coops too.
Moving on then, that discussion.
I also clean up dog poop.
B, quick claim. from
So-
our Friendly
So
Grain
it's-
Commission.
Yeah, at 17 North Main Street, there used to be a white building, which in my time here was never once used for anything.
It was the old jeweler, barber's jewelry.
Well, that was
Not in
before
his
my time.
Not in his time here.
So, the storm drain ran through there, they knocked the building over, and as we anticipated, the Kent County Drain Commissioner is now offering to provide this property to the city with the easements attached to it so that we can't really put any permanent structures on top of it. So I've discussed this with the DDA. They're open to the idea that I presented to them, which would be a potential permanent food truck location. We could also look into what Sparta did with the shipping container shops. We could also turn it into a pocket park. We could do something
Probably
similar.
not pickleball
It's a bit small.
and too much,
Too narrow.
too much concrete or asphalt or
There's grass.
I don't know what you need
Dirt.
to play pickleball.
The school has remedied the pickleball situation. They are
Oh.
now the proud owners of 2 pickleball courts.
Yep.
So that's good for them.
So we don't have to deal with pickleball. Okay.
Well, it depends on whether you see that as a temporary solution or not, but that's your call. Of course, we're open to any type of use, but we can't put a building on top of it. So that's what the DDA had to say. I brought this to the planning commission because under ordinances, the planning commission shall give their recommendation to the city council about the acceptance of land. So they've asked to be able to look at it one more time in October prior to making a recommendation to this board. So.
And I'm assuming as long as we, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm assuming as long as it's a city, we have a city purpose for it, it becomes city property and we don't have to pay. We ran into that weird thing with the taxes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, our tax assessor broke his wrist or hand
Aw.
this past week.
Ooh.
So I've got a couple of issues open with him and I just unfortunately didn't see him. So yes, my understanding is so long as it's a public purpose of some kind, we wouldn't have to pay taxes. Unfortunately, the food truck idea, I believe we would have to pay taxes.
Correct.
Would that work like the aviation thing where
Yep.
like they cover whatever the piece of that is?
Well, except for the fact that the agreement that the city has with the aviation, the Skyhawks folks, does not require them to pay taxes.
Nope,
Oh,
we don't.
oh, that
No,
was
the
Thad.
taxes are minimal on that property. It's $300, $400. a
No,
year.
but that was Thad that created that agreement.
Yeah, so if we were to do that and we would be taxed on it, what we'd likely do is charge the food truck or whoever to
Right.
be there to cover the taxes. But that's all in the future. Really, what we're talking about today is if we accept it, we're the masters of our own destiny.
Right.
If we don't accept it, now you're gonna have the county ignoring cutting the grass for the next forever.
Send them a letter.
That's a little editorializing, I'm sure.
We could mow it ourselves and send them a bill.
Yep.
Which they won't pay.
I know.
Well, at least we don't have to pay taxes on it.
I think there's a future for that little piece of property. This is my 3rd discussion about that. If we accept it and we right away slam it into a park, name it and put it into a park, we don't have to pay taxes. Our thoughts of developing it or planning anything in the future for it, after that, it can be developed. But if we take it now, turn it into a park, throw a picnic table on it, we're golden. It's just a big sandbox right now. The kids love playing in it, but. And then we can move on to what we want to develop it into. There's no rush.
And it's gonna be of extremely limited commercial value of any kind.
Because it's so small.
And you can't put any permits.
You can't put a building on it,
Right.
which is part of why we were running this drain in the first place.
But I think about the people at the bank or whoever, if there's a table there, beautiful spring day, they might want to come out and sit and eat their lunch or.
And theoretically, we could extend the city's commercial, not commercial district. What do we call it? Where you can-
The
social
social
There you
district.
go. You could extend the social district and have that be a picnic area as well. So,
Hmm.
which, by the way, I got notice today that Rockford is considering closing their main street again for Aurora. We can't hardly close our main street, but this would potentially be an option.
We're going to next year.
That's true. We are. We will be closing Main Street a couple times over the next year.
Although I'm guessing you don't want it as a social district while they're working on it.
Don't be here, don't be here.
Anybody drinking,
I
walking
guess
through the construction, maybe.
My
not
big
so much.
concern is this, that I don't want to take this property and all of a sudden we're stuck with another tax bill. We were done with that with the Red Hawk out there at the former lagoon site and the property at the end of beach. We converted that to a walking park or whatever. In my opinion, we would need to have a specific use for that piece of property if we take it from the county. I think if the county wants us to take it, would they pave it?
No.
No. Of course not.
We could probably pave it, although I wouldn't want to.
Well,
If we were gonna do anything in line with what Ms. Powell is saying, I'd like to maybe see the top layer of sand removed, replace it with pea gravel or something. And again, this is just me. I'd like to see that kind of fake grass installed on top of it and then picnic tables. That's what I would like to see done with it. Turn it into a picnic area now and then develop a plan for future use as a permanent food truck installation.
yeah, I would be reluctant to lease it for anything because sure as the world, as soon as we lease it, it'll go on the tax roll and then the food trucks will go away and we're stuck with a bill forever for taxes.
And then we can put picnic tables right back on top of it.
Well, I would, that's my concerns.
That would be a nice spot on Red Flannel Day because of all the food trucks on that corner, for a few picnic tables to be there for folks to sit down and eat, and for any event that's downtown.
Very true.
It doesn't have to be fancy. It can just be,
It would help some of the other, on the social district piece, it would help some of the other businesses.
So what I'm hearing from the
Besides
council, except for
brewery.
Mr. Gross, that we should accept this property. Is that what I'm hearing?
I didn't say we shouldn't accept it.
No,
My purpose is the same thing as what we're gonna do with it in that plan, and the fact that we do have a lot of park territory that's not taxable now.
Right.
I don't have a problem with it if we're gonna use it. And, but I just don't want to let it sit there,
Yeah,
claim it's something that is not. So the picnic table and stuff, I have no problem with that.
I wouldn't want to take it and then have it set forever just as empty property and not utilized.
Right, because of the tax.
yeah, we'd be taxed.
So
That's.
I just
my
think,
biggie. So,
I don't have a problem with taking it.
thank you.
Just making sure we've got it right.
Ms. Atchison. Ms. Atchison.
I agree with everybody. Yeah, take it, but right away,
Make it a part.
make it a park, and then we'll figure out if we want to do
Name.
something else with it.
Ms. Nixon.
Yeah, I think we should do that. We'll put a picnic table on it, and call it a park for now. It'll give us some breathing room to decide if we need to use it for something else.
I think Ms. Powell, you're in agreement with that. Take it.
Absolutely, yes.
Same with Mrs. Conley,
Mhm.
so.
Well, so unfortunately, you guys don't get to make that call until after receiving recommendation from the planning commission.
10-4.
Well, yeah, we had heated discussion over that. So our consent is that we're more than willing, but we want it to be a park of sorts, so we don't have to pay taxes.
I'll make that communication to the planning commission and you'll receive their recommendation by your next meeting.
Sounds wonderful.
All righty, moving on to item C, discussion of proposal. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Womack.
So I've tried to advocate for my staff. One of the things that, we do is we have a couple of permanent part-time folks. I've never quite understood why hate to use the word capitalism, but why in capitalism you have permanently working people who just work a fewer hours, were then really denied all the access to the, the healthcare and then the holiday pay and the part-time pay and all that type of stuff. So you see in your packet, the proposal that I put together with some of my department heads regarding paying the part-time, full-time, permanent part-time staff both a paid time off stipend and also holiday pay. I think it's very reasonable under the circumstances. And I believe that the permanent part-time staff would appreciate it. So I put it on discussion because it's the first time you're seeing it. It's a prerogative of the city manager to maintain the pay for the staff. So I don't really think I need your approval, but I would like to enshrine this in the personnel policies, which I would like your approval for. So I guess I present it to you for however you'd like to deal with it.
Any of the comments? What's your
Can I
councils? Go ahead.
make a comment? As a teacher, I can tell you that that is how it works for part-time teachers. It's prorated in the contract. So whatever your contract is, if it's a full-time contract, there's this certain sets of whatever days or supports or classroom things or whatever. And if you teach, 8/10, you get 8/10 of that. And sick days work the same way, personal days work the same way. It's just prorated based on the percentage of the hours that you work. So it's not, if it seems like it's a unusual concept, it's not in the public education sector.
So what we're giving, basically, if we agree to it, there's how many paid holidays?
I think we have 10 or 12 paid holidays.
Hmm.
I think the proposal is that we'd pay half on the holidays, but the paid time off would be essentially what Ms. Conley said. It's prorated based on the number of hours you're scheduled to work.
To keep part-time staff. I don't have a problem with it.
I think you're also more likely to get more part-time people if they know that they have some of those options.
Yeah.
Like if you're part-time, but you can't ever take a sick day, like part of the reason might be that you're part-time is you've got,
Well, you can take a sick day, you just don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
right, you can't take a paid sick day.
But you give them the little stipend for the holidays, and that's kind of a nice thing.
That's very reasonable. Lots of companies do that, whether you're part-time or
Yeah.
full-time. If you work the holiday, you get paid for the holiday.
Yeah.
At holiday rate.
Yeah, you don't have a problem. Ms. Powell, what's your opinion? Yes, no?
Well, I think based on the quality of the employees that work for us, this is a good, this is a step in the right direction to keep them and get them and keep them. And I would, that's basically how I was paid over the years that I worked as a part-timer. And I just appreciated getting that little extra bonus.
Thank you. Mr. Grove.
You're asking a question of a guy that spent most of his life in management.
I know it.
And I understand the purpose and the reasoning. There's a lot of hard driving back in the back of my head here yet. I'd be willing to discuss it and consider it. I may be a little harder sell than the Mayor Pro Tem, simply because she's dealing with a contract for education. And there's a lot of things that you can do with a contract through education or any other organization where you have a contract. I'm not totally against it. I just need to run it through my head a little longer. Okay.
You. Ms. Atchison.
Well, you're talking to a person that works for no benefits. Being a hairdresser, you don't get a lot of that type of stuff, but I believe that if you want a quality staff and you want people to stick around, you need to offer some benefits. So I'm not against it.
Yes. Mrs. Nixon, you're in the medical field.
Yes, well, and even prior to that, I worked a lot of jobs that did not have a contract and did not require a college degree.
Correct.
And it has always been, if you work the holiday, you get holiday pay. That's, if your full timers are getting it, your part timers are getting it too. If you're there, you get paid.
Well,
So-
this would be staff, they would have that day off and they would be paid for it. They would
Okay.
not be working it.
I think
I always liked a little extra bonus on my paycheck.
Well,
I mean, and we're talking about, we're having trouble finding people to work and we're having trouble retaining people.
True.
And so we're talking about what, 10, 12 days a year, we're gonna pay someone to,
12.
so that we don't have to train
Yeah.
someone.
We
How much does it cost to
probably-
hire and train? A
Yeah,
lot.
a lot. We probably talking 2 to 3 people.
and we're talking half.
Sure,
day,
but I know that,
And we're talking scheduled, right?
Right.
If they're scheduled for that day.
right, but so,
No, they wouldn't work that holiday.
No,
They
I
would
know, but
be-
they're
It's to be a
they
paid
would be
day off.
scheduled
Yeah, it
for.
would be a scheduled day that comes on a holiday, they get paid for it, or vice versa. It's a holiday, they get paid.
To be treated the same way that full-time employees.
yeah, and
Yeah.
anytime you have turnover, it's expensive. If we can avoid that,
Absolutely.
this is much cheaper.
For what it's worth, Ms. Nixon, just a minor modification, of what you said. We keep employees because the employees here are dedicated to the mission of the city. They didn't join because we were thinking about adopting this policy.
Of course not.
But
Understand.
someday they will retire.
Yes.
And-
But yeah, it's a very tight labor market right now. Trying to find anybody new is very difficult. But, you know, we like our employees. We think our employees do a great job
We'll
and they
take care of
stuck
them.
through us without this policy. So having this policy, I think, is an added bonus.
I know for all the years that I worked here, it was quite a deal with the council to provide employees of the city. They were very thankful when they tried to pay us what they could all the time. So I don't have a problem with any of this. So sounds like you got a,
Do we offer paid sick time prorated for our part-time employees?
No, that's what this will do.
Right, because I was gonna say, because the other piece of this, in addition to just it being a good idea, if you want your people to not come to work sick,
That's part of it.
I mean, you kind of need to plug that in.
Yep. So if council's not opposed to it, what I'll do is I'll bring it back to your next agenda's consent item.
thank you.
Thank you.
Then that concludes any discussion items or anything, any further business, correct?
Believe so, at least under the discussion items.
Okay, moving on to communications. Community event calendar. It's kind of empty, but it will fill up.
Well, oh, sorry, skipping ahead.
Yeah. The 21 Zoom meeting calendar for anyone eligible to Zoom. And the Red Flannel Committee, community event reservations. I believe we all have an invite.
Yep, so there's a donor breakfast, I think the day before at the Redbird,
Saturday.
which the council has been specifically invited to. But this is on your agenda to show that they've added back in the lumberjack show after,
Oh.
I believe CS Manufacturing donated the money for that.
Sponsored it?
Yes.
So we had to revise it so that the DPW can fill their pool that day, which requires shutting down the road, I believe Ash Street, west of Main Street. So
They
that's
do
where-
that like log rolling thing.
Which can be a very cold day to fall in the water, so.
It is.
Full day to very
Yes,
cold.
indeed.
That's why they're wearing their flannels.
So it's up to them.
I don't know that wet flannels are gonna keep you very
Heavy.
warm, but.
They are warm. but
I've
they
told
are
them I was open to the idea of being in the dunk tank on that day, if I could wear like a wetsuit, because
Mm.
Just wear red flannels, they'll keep you warm.
I was gonna say,
Flannels.
I've done the dunk tank for the
Or the
reading
Sioux
program,
Wolves.
but that's in the summer.
Sioux wolves. Wear some wool breeches.
So the most important thing there, unfortunately, is our Main Street planner, Mr. Tim Johnson, has indicated after 40 years, he is set to retire. So he's been with our community for 4 of those 40 years. So we're kind of stuck in a bind. There won't be that many planners out there. It's just not a popular thing to go into. The few people I think that will be available out there, you know, they're gonna be young, inexperienced. And probably expensive, unfortunately. So, I presented the planning commission with a number of options. Of course, city council really should sign off on it as well, because even though the planning commission can request something, the city council has to control the budget of that thing. So,
They need a planner.
well, so there's two main options. We can try to hire a planner. There's a couple of methods for doing that. The nice thing about a planner is they're technically the professional, that's what they went into. And the way we're structured, the developers pay a significant portion of that cost. On the other hand, we could do it in such a way that I now take over the site plan reviews, which I do 50% of that work now anyways. But as you guys probably figured out, I don't have the time for that.
You shouldn't be doing the 50% you do.
Unfortunately, it's kind of how we create high quality projects in the city. And so the other option is that we would hire an assistant city manager, a full-time zoning administrator, somebody who could take a significant portion of my work off my plate, which would then enable me to do the planning and zoning work.
Term do both.
We can do both, but you know, things cost money. So anyway, so I've asked the planning commission to make a recommendation to this board, but you guys get to have final authority because you have the budget control.
Okay, thank you. Was
We
that
currently
your-
pay a planner.
We do.
We do.
It's about $500-ish per meeting.
Yeah, and developers pay it, so.
And then the developers pay usually about $1,000 to $1,500.
But I'm saying it's not a new,
No.
we're already, this is already a thing that we do.
Correct.
We
Yeah,
would
it's
just
a
be doing
turnover.
it to a different person.
Correct. Was that your
Do we do
manager's
that
report?
sounds- I'm sorry.
Was that your manager's report?
If you want it to be.
You went right into it. I figured it was.
Oh, the only thing I'd mention is, I apologize. I've been sick the last several weeks. I suffered some kind of respiratory illness about 3 weeks ago. Really knocked me for a loop. I found myself to be kind of lightheaded since then. So I have been making small errors like what you saw tonight, and I apologize for that.
Are you human?
I'm sorry,
Are you human?
my Hume?
Human.
Really?
Oh, occasionally. I don't like that.
You're
part.
entitled to make mistakes.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, get used to it. so.
Also, next week, I'll be at a not city manager conference. I'll be at a leadership institute in Pennsylvania. So I will not be in the city.
Thank you for going to get more training.
Yes. That concludes your report, sir?
Sure.
Thank you. DPW report, Mr. LaRose, any questions or concerns of him? Hearing none, even on infrastructure alternative. Maintenance report, as usual, pretty thorough. Police department. Chief Frazier, he is here present. I see he has a mic, so he's probably, raring to go. He laid it down. Any questions of the chief?
I would ask the board to review the plaque information that I put in front of you. I would like to have a plaque installed on the new fire station building. So let me know if you like the spelling of your name. Like me to add your nickname in there, Trixie Galore or something like that.
Too many words.
I said, I thought it looked fabulous. I just wasn't sure if Marty Frazier wanted to be Marty
Martin,
or are you Martin?
I'll ask you.
His full name is Martin Dale, so. Right? Martin Dale?
I'll ask him when I see him.
thank you.
Talk to Mr. Womack, Marty is fine, that's what I answered to, among other things.
And I wasn't sure if Mr. Gross wanted to be Jerry Gross.
He is. He's already answered that one.
That was my only questions when I saw it.
That's the name.
Yep. All right.
Senior wouldn't be a bad deal because the son is the same.
I think would be an excellent Jerry Gross Senior.
SR period, is that?
R period, yeah.
Yes. There's a junior.
No, that's not the legal, that's what we use to differentiate.
Mr. Frazier also indicated that one of his firefighters that attended all of the initial meetings, he'd like to have that person's name added on there as well, which I have no objections to.
Absolutely.
No problem.
And then
I'd like to have my middle name on there.
I already made that change. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's ex-wife has the name Rose Powell, and I get in trouble every once in a while.
And then I made up the language at the bottom. Hopefully that's acceptable to everybody.
Great.
I think it looks wonderful.
I think you gotta take the Orion off it and,
I thought about that. I did discuss that a few times, but I guess my philosophy is 30 years from now, when the building's falling over, I'd like somebody to know who to sue.
Yeah.
who not to hire.
And then, of
Anyway.
course, the special thanks to the CBDT and the citizens.
Yes, that's very proper, I think.
I'm kind of surprised that the builder didn't do this because when we built the middle school and the athletic complex, that
So it
was all
was
included.
offered.
We weren't,
Um,
we kind of told them we don't want your name on there.
So the offer was, construction company and city of Cedar Springs.
Oh, because like the middle, like if you look at the one at the middle school,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like that.
As you probably all know, we do have some minor disagreements with both the engineering firm and the contractor right
Yes.
now.
It's
So
not-
I didn't want to accept their offer when we might end up having to be in court with them. So for the cost of, I think this is a 800 or 1,000.
It's fine. Yeah, I just had a moment when you were sending it that I thought, oh, did that not just come with the building? 'Cause it did with the middle school.
If there's anybody here who's a word nerd, should we capitalize citizens at the end? And the citizens of Cedar Springs?
You
Yeah.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're gonna come this CBDT before it, I would
Yeah, but that's a-
capitalize citizens. I know that's a company, but I think it would look better.
To designate, a little more emphasis and.
And I'm assuming you want to
Yeah.
be Mike, not Michael?
Yeah,
Well, and
Michael's what my mom calls me, or when my
So-
wife calls me when she's mad at me.
if we're picking it apart, so where it says this fire station is capitalized and it's not a proper noun.
We could make it a proper noun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's for the emphasis piece of it. Like they did that with the middle school too.
Mm,
Or we could change it to the Cedar Springs Fire Station, which would.
And then it would be a proper noun.
Fire barn.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
oh, there were some feelings.
Woo! That was, if looks
Moving
could
on.
kill.
Well, no, but I want everybody to be happy.
Maybe we should call it the Cedar
Yeah.
Springs Fire
Yeah.
Station. I kind of
Yeah.
like that
Well,
actually.
So it
like
is
that too.
called that at the top.
Right, no, but
Yeah.
maybe that should be what it says in the bottom too.
You're duplicating.
This Cedar Springs Fire Station
Yeah.
or the Cedar Springs Fire Station is dedicated to those.
I like this.
Mhm,
This because it's referring to the building, not the
mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
Yep.
You're
And then,
referring to the
yes,
city, not
then
the
capitalize
fire.
citizens.
Yeah. More words.
All right.
All right.
So I will
Moving on.
hopefully be able to bring back a
Rendition.
picture before I approve of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because there are a couple options. There's an aluminum option, which is silver, and then there's I think it's cast bronze, which is kind of a goldish with a black background.
Mm.
Yeah, Kurt maybe knows a company that does that really well.
I already got quotes.
We offered to do something like this for the amphitheater for the community building development team and put their
No,
names
They
on.
already
it.
put one up.
They put a
no.
plaque up, but it doesn't have their names on it. That I
I
mean,
don't
unless
think
I'm
they
looking
wanted
at.
that on there.
Okay, I was just gonna say, we could
Yeah.
offer to spring for that.
Let's do this one first and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anything for the city clerk?
I just wanted to mention, as I mentioned in my report, that redistricting is coming up soon. The state is probably 6 months behind due to the delay in the census data. We may have some districts changing. My hope is that our city will not change. Due to the fact that if we do change our Senate seat district, then we will have to mail out notices to every single registered voter in city, and that will cost us a significant amount of money and staff time to do.
There's lawsuits right now going back and forth. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, so we'll wait and see how that pans out, but, and then I just wanted to remind everybody too, there's some legislation right now going on as far as increasing the number of registered voters per precinct. For us, that would be a very, very good thing because we would not have to add an additional precinct if that goes through. However, I did see that the Secretary of State did oppose that legislation, unfortunately. We are rapidly growing. I think we're at about 2,500 registered voters. We can have a max of 2,999. So if it gets closer and closer to that number, especially as the additional homes get built in the new development area, we may be going down that road.
If I could addend just a second, it's not that we're opposed to a second precinct. It's that we feel that our one precinct operates extremely efficiently. We don't have voters waiting in line.
Yeah, no.
We don't have issues. So the additional cost and stress that it would put upon the city is not worth it, in our opinion.
For us.
If it was, we wouldn't be opposed to it.
Rebecca, who is sponsoring the bill to not have the redistricting or raise the voter limit to its precinct?
The Secretary of State has opposed that.
And who's sponsoring the bill?
I don't know the off the top of my head.
Okay.
The redistricting is, was,
That happens every 10 years.
yeah.
Mhm.
And the way that it's done was changed by a ballot initiative.
Correct. In 2018.
So that to try to eliminate gerrymandering. There's also a court decision in addition to the ballot initiative that said we had to find a new way because we're so gerrymandered. It's actually unconstitutional.
Okay, any further questions of Mrs. Johnson? Moving on to our finance
Thank you for
director.
that.
We have her here this evening. Everyone's in person.
Nice to see your person.
Yes, indeed.
I'm also glad when you can Zoom and be in your dining room with snacks.
Code enforcement, any questions, concerns, building inspections, and then on to boards and commissions. Hearing none, we're moving on to council comments. Mrs. Powell.
Well, looking forward to Red Flannel Day. We have a wonderful board and they are working very hard to get this Red Flannel Day off and going, and a lot of activities planning, and I'm hoping to be in the chili cook-off if anybody wants to come up against a former 3-time champion. I'm looking at you, Mike Womack.
If my wife tells me I can,
Oh.
use your recipe.
Okay, well, she can come on in too. So anyway, it's pretty exciting and just can't wait to get it rolling.
Good deal. Ms. Conley.
Wonderful response from our DPW folks with this last storm. We've had so many storms and we just, climate change is doing a number on our electrical grid and our trees, and our DPW people just keep showing up and fixing it and getting so you can drive across the roads. And I'm really grateful for that. And I also, I recently just got my 3rd shot. If you are a high risk person and you are 28 days past your 2nd shot, the folks at Rite Aid will give you your 3rd shot. So that is their overarching policy. And please just take care of yourselves. The numbers of hospitalized people right now are the highest that they've been ever during this entire pandemic.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Mr. Gross.
Not a lot to say tonight. I appreciate everything that is going on in the city with the employees and all the events and the growth and all that stuff and the way we're attacking the things that come in front of us. I am somewhat concerned about the citizens that approached us today. The fact that the company in question wasn't here to be able to respond. I would like to see that from them. I think we owe that to them. If we're listening to complaints, that the complaints probably should have gone to them also. to see if they could work something out, but that's about it. Everybody stay safe.
Ms. Sampson.
Thanks again to the people that work in the city or work for us. And I'm glad that we're looking at doing something to keep everybody happy that, you know, want them to stay working for us. We don't want them to go somewhere else. Also, I'm looking forward, I'm gonna walk in the parade, so watch for me, clap for me.
Re-election, no,
Yeah.
not me.
So that'll be something different. Looking forward to red flannel. That'll be, you know, besides that, it'll be fun, you know, being downtown. You need people down here, man, in the,
No, I think I'll be in town for red flannel. So I should be able to have, I mean, obviously, we always like to have people available.
come hang out,
Yeah, for an hour or so to give me,
watch the band.
Are we gonna have a schedule? Do you want us to sign up?
I can do that by email.
I would, yeah, if everyone is agreeant to come in and do a little time in
Wash
here,
the
so
bathrooms.
staff doesn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, I'm happy to keep the bathrooms open, but I also like to grab some food and, you know, see
Right.
people.
I'll be
Yeah,
in here.
yes.
I'll be in here.
I was
so,
gonna say, I always take a shift.
Yep,
I appreciate that.
I'll be in here in the morning for certain.
Yeah, I won't be able to later during the parade, but
Yeah.
I usually do the parade.
Well, we got City
Oh,
Hall
yeah.
covered during the parade, so everybody else was good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mrs. Dixon,
Why am I always last?
you're next to me.
Oh,
I'm last. You're not always last. I'm
well,
last.
like I'm the last one you talk to. Okay, anyway, that
That's where you sat
notwithstanding.
tonight.
That notwithstanding, I don't have a lot to say either. Just stay safe and I appreciate the ongoing efforts that make these meetings happen.
Thank you. For the sake of the persons here tonight and the counselors, we have been in discussion with Mr. Wall on the issue there in turn. We have passed some ordinances that do address the tracking of mud offsite onto there, so I'm sure we'll be dealing with that. But his intent is to build that up so he can put a sewer line in there where he will not have to put a lift station in because of the shallowness of the sanitary. It's an ongoing, as he goes, he's filling it to develop it. So
okay.
I don't know what we can do.
Well, I would want a timeline if I were. in the
Yeah,
middle of that.
ditto.
Yeah.
I don't think you get
Should
to
it
do
take
that
6
forever
years?
in a residential neighborhood.
If you want me to address it now, I can, or I can send you more information by email.
Why don't we do that?
Well, we do
Yeah,
that.
let's
'cause
do
we
that.
have, you
We
know,
have a
It's a complex issue.
Sure.
manager review.
currently, for those of you who don't know, Mr. Dean Wall, his home burnt this morning at 7 o'clock.
Mm.
Portion of it, yeah.
A very large portion of it, and so, yeah, other than that. You know, thank everyone for tonight, you know, it's tough to sit here sometime to listen to some people. Comments and concerns that they have, but we agree on things and move on for the betterment of the community. And we have a closed session tonight. Hope everyone brought their
Oh, shoot.
I forgot.
managers.
I did.
I didn't.
Oh, well.
So, what we'll do, we'll adjourn for 5 minutes. And then we'll come back in if everybody so wishes, or we'll adjourn and postpone his evaluation until next month.
You postponed it for a year, by the way.
Well,
know.
but we could do
What's-
October.
What's
I
another
did read
month?
it. I just didn't bring it.
Well, so you're not obligated in any way to submit a writing of any kind.
I know, but
We
Do we
can al-
want to or not?
He
tonight?
doesn't recommend it.
Well, yeah,
Up.
anything you write down can be FOIA'd.
That's right. So,
I'm
Want
happy
a
to,
straw vote or?
yes,
Go ahead. I could say yes, we could go another month.
I would like to do October.
Mr. Rose,
I'm prepared either way.
Mrs. Nixon, you're not last.
I'm not last. A month will unlikely change what I would do or say in regards to, so
Okay,
I'm happy with either.
if that sense,
Doesn't matter to me.
sounds like we wait till next month.
Well, the only thing I would caution is we don't know how much we're gonna have on the agenda next month.
No more than what we have tonight.
You never
Oh, you
know.
weren't here for the midnight long meetings. We can have some.
I've had
meetings, my friend.
long meetings for planning commission, let me tell you.
Stand adjourned.
All right.
Can I say something before the council?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh,
Number one, I would like to thank Mr. Womack, the council,